Academica Media. From Academica Media Studios in Miami, Florida, it's Big Ideas in Education, a weekly recap of inspiration and innovation in your schools.
Hello, education lovers. We are so thrilled to have you with us on our latest installment of Big Ideas in Education. I'm Ryan Kairalla from Doral College, joined by Dr. Sarah Boulos from Somerset Academy Schools. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Ryan. Hello, everyone.
And I believe we're also joined by various members of your delightful family. Just let people know on the front end.
I will say, although I make it a policy not to apologize for children, we do have children in our midst and may hear noises. So just be aware if you hear some unexpected voices, we have some other people in our midst. Yes. I
would say just the opposite. We're not apologizing for children.
Right. I'm not apologizing.
This is a good thing.
This is real life.
We are offering additional entertainment of at any moment during this education news. You're going to hear the delightful voices of children.
On an education podcast, it's shocking to learn we work with and live with children.
Yes. Well, your story is actually about the children, which is always going to be a focus in education. What do you have for us this week?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying, opposite of clickbait, here's the title I have for you. The secret to student engagement may not surprise you.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
We have too many stories where things may surprise us.
All right. So I found this incredible recap of a panel, and I actually have the panel linked also in the description of this episode, which is fantastic to watch if you have the time. But there was a panel of 3 educators: Kim King, an elementary art teacher in Mansfield, Connecticut; Kimberly Radostitz, an 8th through 12th grade Spanish teacher in Oregon, Illinois; and Tori Weiston-Surden, a clinical assistant professor at Claremont Graduate University who studies youth mentoring. And they shared their advice on how to motivate students during this Ed Week online forum. And I have to say, I was really excited to see that all of these suggestions, the 3 insights that were recommended here, are all things that I think we are proponents of all the time, all the time on this show. And I know I am in my practice every day. And I have to say, sometimes it's exciting to see that the insights shared are recommendations that we make all the time, not something groundbreaking. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think that's both a blessing and a curse, right? So the 3 main insights that they shared from this panel was: 1, listen to what students are asking for and honor their input. 2, teacher-student relationships are key. And 3, small gestures can make a big difference. If that is not something that I think we've been hounding since the first episode of this broadcast, I don't know what it is. Give students choice and opportunity, listen to them, focus on relationships, and the little things make a difference, right? Small gestures make a big difference. So one teacher said they use sticky notes to convey messages of support or encouragement to students. For example, she might write, "Are you okay?" Circle yes or no on a sticky note and quietly put it down on a student's desk while circling the room. Or another teacher mentioned they might write a sticky note congratulating a student on their hard work or academic success. She's noticed some students will save those notes and keep them in their lockers. Those little moments have a big impact on kids. And I think it's incredible that the things that we know work, right? These little things are not huge advancements in technology. We're not learning some brand new information that we didn't already know about our kids. It's no secret that we've all been struggling to increase and bring student engagement back to pre-pandemic levels. But to know that going back to the foundations of what we know about learning and to go my notebook and to go back to what we know works about with students, about learning, what we can do to work with our students. It is refreshing. And it is also challenging because I think sometimes if you're a seasoned educator or if you were teaching before the pandemic and you're feeling like things have changed so much and you don't know what to do, it may feel, I already know these things. But maybe it does, maybe it does present an opportunity to take a second look and come back to fundamentals, as it will, right? What are you doing to work with those students, build relationships with those students? What have you not learned about those students that maybe you could be doing more? What could you do to increase student choice a little bit more? What can you ask your students? How can they give feedback on what they're learning? How can they give feedback on what they're learning? And how can they be given more opportunity to share what they want to learn about? So I think in general, it's important to take this message of going back to fundamentals and what it is that we do as educators and making sure that we still do those things.
Well, when we talk about creating a positive experience in the classroom, increasing student outcomes, and just having a better classroom environment, we're always thinking about what are the big policy moves we can make? What are the big significant policy decisions that we have to make at a high level? And what your story tells us is it's the little things that matter. It's the small teacher moments. But what's the role of policy in that? And I think there is still a policy role, because I think the little things like that don't happen. A teacher doesn't have time to put the note on the student's desk unless you give them a better classroom environment, unless you give them more time to do those little things, because they're not as caught up in administrative stuff. So to the extent that at the policy level, we can make actionable decisions that make a teacher's day-to-day life easier, that frees up their time with less administrative tasks so they can do more of these kind of direct student engagement tasks, we can create these positive outcomes. So there's a role both at the macro level and micro level here as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm going to add to that, because I think coming from a school leader's perspective, and this is something we talk about a lot, where you can't give from an empty cup, right? You can't produce what is not there. So if we are not listening to our teachers, if we are not building relationships with our staff and among our staff, if we are not listening to the input and providing those small gestures to fill the cup of those educators, we cannot expect that to happen in the classroom. So I think it's just as important to think about what is it that we are doing to motivate our teachers and engage our teachers so that they have the wherewithal and the emotional fortitude to go forward and do this for their students. Because you're right, I don't know if it's about time as much as it is about emotional energy to invest in your students if you are not being invested in.
Absolutely. Well, I want to keep us on the teacher theme here, Sarah. Recently, our friends over at EdWeek spotlighted Ector County School District in Texas, which has implemented some pretty impressive reforms to turn the tide on its teacher shortage. So this is a great article about some of the policy things that can be done at the high level to create a better environment for classroom teachers that I think if we combine it with some of your micro level reforms, we might be able to do a lot of good here. But let me tell you what they're doing over in Ector County. So back in 2019, for a little bit of background, the district faced a very concerning 18% vacancy rate. However, under the leadership of Superintendent Scott Murray, Ector County implemented a multi-point plan to tackle the issue, and by the start of this academic year, their vacancy rate dropped to just 1%. The district strategy focused on two key areas: increasing teacher pay and cultivating a pipeline of future educators. Ector County recently raised its starting salary from $52,000 to about $58,000 and offered bonuses for top-performing teachers. With the right combination of education, experience, and performance, educators in Ector could potentially earn six figures, potentially out-earning a school's assistant principals. The changes even inspired some Ector County administrators to go back into classroom teaching. Additionally, the district introduced programs targeting high school students, paraprofessionals, and college seniors, allowing them to pursue teaching careers with financial support and hands-on experience. This proactive approach to nurturing local talent has proven to be a game changer. The reforms are geared toward making teacher education programs more affordable, shortening the time to a degree, and providing mentoring and support to young educators. Ector County's success serves as a prime example for other districts, emphasizing the need for long-term solutions to combat the teacher shortage crisis. With their innovative approach, Ector is paving the way for others to follow suit. Now, I like Ector's emphasis, Sarah, on developing local talent. When you're in one of these smaller school districts, it's going to be hard to draw a lot of educators from outside into your neck of the woods. So you got to look from within. And if you can look within your own schools and start to identify students as young as 16 or 17 that could be potential teachers, identifying those students, getting them early and developing them to become teachers and helping pay for their education can be a great way that you always have a pipeline of great, well-developed talent to address your teacher shortage.
Absolutely. Okay, so the first thing that went through my mind when you were talking about their focus on increasing teacher pay, I have to say is a little bit of a joke, but I don't know if you remember that Key and Peele sketch about how, they were drafting teachers the way they do athletes.
Yeah, the teacher sports center thing.
Exactly.
It's one of my favorite sketches ever, by the way. I love it.
And so that was my immediate thought, is if we were to invest in making teachers feel as desired, as our professional athletes. And I almost feel like we're getting close to that point in some circles because of the need for teachers in so many areas. So I absolutely love that that's the direction that they're investing, is making sure that we are clear on our priorities is quality educators and putting our money where their mouth is, right? So many schools and so many school districts and states and even the entire country at this point is talking about how they want and need teachers, but where are we actually able to see an increase in teacher salary so that we can make that profession as enticing and as compensated as other professions with the same level of education and expertise?
Now, what do you think of the idea? Yeah, and I mean, what do you think of the idea in Ector County of these salaries being so lucrative that when you tack on certain education experience bonuses, merit pay, performance, that it might actually be more lucrative in Ector County to be a classroom teacher than even a school administrator, which, I think can be a positive development, because think of how many excellent teachers who want to stay in the classroom go into administration just because they can't afford not to. And now we lose that really excellent teacher.
Well, I've been saying for a while, and I don't know if I've said it much on the show, but something that I've struggled with even in my own career path is there is not much of a ladder. There's not much of a career path for educators who do not necessarily want to be building administrators. That is not the goal of any or most teachers when they first get into the profession. But if you've been in the experience a long time, other than something like national board certification, there's not a clear path or direction for you. So you either remain a classroom teacher and your salary and your position is somewhat stagnant, or you can go into school building administration, which is, again, not the goal of most people. So finding a way to compensate and a lot for growth and for additional experience and things like that within the classroom teacher is exciting to me, and I hope it becomes a model for other school districts. I think that there is a significant number of educators who want to grow, who want to mentor others, who want to be leaders, but may not want to be an assistant principal or a principal.
Absolutely right. And I should mention that these reforms that are happening in Ector County, while excellent, right? We do need to do more to bring people into the profession. And certainly once they get there, we need to make sure these folks are effectively compensated for their level of education and experience and talent. But it's still not a substitute for some of the other very important things that have been identified as, if we can do them, they would help us address teacher shortages. Creating a better environment for teachers to operate, allowing them more autonomy, less administrative kind of bloat that keeps them out of actually directly working with students. There's a lot of quality of life stuff that we still need to do as a policy level in individual schools to further reduce teacher shortages. But some of the things that they're doing in Ector County are definitely a positive development.
It sounds like they are addressing the needs of that community if they were able to change the shortage rate so significantly in such a short amount of time. It sounds like, a little bit back to what we were talking about at the top of the episode with the engagement, is that they listened to the needs of that community and worked directly towards addressing that. I think that, as you mentioned, this is a huge multifaceted issue, right? There's not one direct solution, and one solution is not going to work for every single community that is experiencing shortages right now, but it looks like we have a good example of addressing what needs to be done in Ector. And I'm excited to see what other districts and other networks can take from this, and also if this has long-term benefits for them.
Oh, either way, 1% vacancy rate, you love to see it. We'd love to hear from you, viewers and listeners, on what you think of our stories this week. Please tweet at us at Academica Media with the hashtag BigIdeasInEducation, and let us benefit from your perspective. It is always great to hear from the terrific community we're building around here. Sarah, always a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you for understanding about our visitors on the episode today.
The views expressed on the preceding program have been those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Academica, its clients, staff, affiliates, or advertisers.